On today's Locked On Jayhawks, we're recapping KU's close loss with a third-string quarterback, 16-13 to Texas Tech, as they dropped to 7-3 on the season.
You are Locked On Jayhawks, your daily podcast on the Kansas Jayhawks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Derek Johnson, you can hear me as well Monday through Friday from 3 to 6 p.m. on KLWN in Lawrence with Rock Chalk Sports Talk. Thanks for making Locked On Jayhawks your first listen every day. We are free and available anywhere you get any of your podcasts. You can also find us with our YouTube page where you can like and subscribe to the show. And on today's edition, we're breaking down, recapping the KU Texas Tech game in which the Jayhawks fell to the Red Raiders 16-13. First, this episode of Locked On Jayhawks is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase with Gametime. So KU falls to Texas Tech 16-13, a game that they were down at halftime and ended up fighting hard. I think no complaint about the effort or the want to. Maybe you can say you were sluggish. Maybe you can say there was a bit of a look ahead factor with the Kansas State game the next week, but early morning game. But I don't really think it's that. I mean, Texas Tech did come out firing off the ball a little bit better than maybe you did on playing physically to get things going. But after kind of a bad start where you're 3 and out and you don't have a first down through a couple of drives and they go down, they get 2 scores quickly. The first one rather easily, the second one a little bit tougher after 2 kind of bad punts. From there, you really fought your tails off to get back into the game. The defense was excellent from there. The offense, started to figure things out a little bit in the fourth quarter after really struggling through the first 3 quarters, which made sense when you get onto a third-string quarterback. But you just kind of played with your hand tied behind your back with having that third-string QB that actually that Cole Ballard played well, and we'll get into that a little bit more here. I actually loved the moxie of Ballard, like that 3rd and 10 run. If KU ends up winning that game, you go back to that 3rd and 10 run where he takes the hit and, falls forward, and you're really impressed with what he did, especially given the circumstances. But in the end, it's, I said leading into the week, Texas Tech was better than the record showed. They had a 1-score loss to Oregon. They had a double overtime loss to Wyoming. They had QB injuries throughout the year where they got to third strings, 1-score loss to West Virginia. Like, you looked at some of the metric sites and they were much better than maybe some of the stats indicated. So there's reason not to be overly worried or anything with this specific loss. And you just didn't execute. You played hard. There's differences. There's sometimes you lose games where you don't play hard enough, or you don't make enough hustle plays, or maybe you're missing tackles or whatever. There's other games where you do play hard, but the execution's just not there. There are other games where maybe you're just not disciplined enough, right? This was just a game where there were a few areas. It wasn't everything. There were a few areas where you just didn't execute well enough. The red zone offense would be the clear one. You came into the game, and we talked about this on the preview show. Kansas was last in the Big 12 in red zone defense coming in. Texas Tech was second to last in red zone defense coming in terms of amount of scores per red zone appearances you've given up. And Texas Tech's defense was able to hold the KU offense to just 6 total points on 3 red zone trips. You get 1 touchdown on any of those red zone trips. You get 1 extra field goal, which I thought that was the right decision to go for it on 4th and goal at the 1. But just, you play it out, you get 1 extra scoring play. You just get that 1 touchdown on one of the drives that you scored 3 points on instead, or the touchdown on the drive that you got stuffed on the 4th down and 1. Like, that changes the game against a defense that hasn't been very good in the red zone. So beyond that, I think for me, this is an absolutely, I want to preface it by saying this, this is an amazing coaching staff that KU has. What Lance Leipold and this coaching staff have been able to do is remarkable at Kansas. And for the most part, this is a really good coaching staff. But I think there were some things that you would point to in this game and say, yeah, it probably wasn't the best handled that way. I think game management left a little bit to be desired there. You were down 10-0 at the end of the first half, and Texas Tech has the ball. And it was like 1:20 to go. Kansas had all 3 of their timeouts. They had a 4th and 1, 4th and 2 from their own end of the field around their own 35, 40-yard line. Actually, I don't even know if it was that far. I think closer to the 35, 34-yard line, something like that. And Tech went up to the line of scrimmage with the intent of just trying to get Kansas to jump off sides, which they didn't. But at the worst case scenario, run the clock down to like 40 seconds, take a timeout, then punt. If Kansas calls a timeout with 120 on the fourth down, do they just punt away? Now you got the ball, with 2 timeouts to go, maybe at your own 30 or something like that. And I get it was third string walk-on quarterback, but you're down 10-0, and you kind of got to start taking chances. So I thought, and then the first play, you get like a 6 or 7 yard running play, and then you just eat it into the end of half. I thought Kansas should have been a little bit more aggressive there, given the fact that, again, you were down 10-0 and you needed to get something going, right? So there was that, but I guess that one can be explained away in a bit of a different thing. But the not using the timeout there and then all of a sudden using a timeout at the end of the first, like that's the one. There was, I think, 44 seconds left, and it was a goal-to-go situation for Kansas, and there was a timeout used. And it was like, okay, Texas Tech must use a timeout so that they can make sure they have enough time when they get the ball back, whether it's 13-13 or whether they're down, if Kansas can get a touchdown here. But it was Kansas who used it, and that was really peculiar because in a goal-to-go situation, they still had their timeouts. Like, it's not like they were rushing. If they would have got the snap off with 30 seconds, you still would have had, with your future timeouts, enough time to get all the plays off. And then worst case scenario, you're kicking a field goal with 5 seconds left with the last play of regulation to guarantee it going either to overtime or you winning in regulation. So the fact that you used your own timeout with 44 seconds allowed Tech to get the ball back with 26 seconds, and that gave them enough time to go down in like 3 plays and then eventually kick a field goal. So there were some game management things, some of the goal-to-go play calling, the 3rd and goal where you have Devin Neal pass. Now, I sort of get it. You've been setting up the Wildcat. You've been running Wildcat for 3 straight years, 3 straight weeks, and having a bunch of success with it, including in this game. And then you throw out the one passing play on the Wildcat run when they're least expecting it. Like I can see the brainchild of it, but certainly it's one of those things where it's like, you would have maybe loved it this way or another. That's one that I think is more hindsight 2020. Like I get what the vision was on that one. But the 4th and goal, it's tough when you have a short yardage situation. I've never been on board with the, run out of pistol, run out of the shotgun when it's a 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, let alone 4th and goal at the one where things are even more condensed with the back line. You'd just like to see that be a QB sneak or an under center run or a pitch play or something a little bit different. And I do wonder if KU was hesitant to run a QB sneak with Cole Ballard on the 4th and goal at the 1 because they were like, hey, if this guy gets hurt, we're on a 4th string quarterback. So again, you can understand a little bit of it, but still, I thought, there were some things you point to and say, man, that was right in front of you there. Big picture, KU's fine. KU's still in a good spot, 7 wins. You could even, lose out the rest of the way. Your winning season secure, the most wins in 15, 14 years. Obviously, you don't want that to happen, and you don't want to go again, kind of on a downward spiral toward the end. But certainly for the rest of this season, I don't know. It's hard to say things are fine because with Jason Bean getting hurt, Jalen Daniels already hurt. It's just kind of like, okay, well, this could really hinder your ability to win another game the rest of this season. Now, if the defense plays like that and you run the ball well and Cole Ballard is proficient enough, could you beat Cincinnati? Yeah, I'm not holding my breath for the K-State game, but who knows? Maybe everybody else really steps up in a big way, and maybe Cole Ballard is a hero that you don't expect. But big picture, this season is already a success. And when you add the notion, like at the end of the year, even if Kansas finishes 7-6, 8-5, whatever it is, you're going to look back on the year and say, wow, they had a winning season in a year where Big 12 preseason offensive player of the year missed X amount of games, and your backup got hurt after that. Like there are a lot of big picture things that the program continues to ascend upward, and that, yes, you lost out on the ability to be like, okay, we're a Big 12 title contender. Yes, you lost out on the ability to be like, we have a outside shot of making a New Year's Six bowl, and those stink, and that sucks as part of it. But maybe we were putting the cart before the wagon a little bit on that to begin with, and just from a standpoint of taking smaller steps along with the way as you go as a program. That's something Lance Leipold talked about, not going from A to D, having to go from A to B to C to D kind of in the post game. So, big picture, everything in the right way. And if you beat K-State, like you would obviously trade if you had to pick one of the two. Like that's the way it goes. So, props to the defense for battling their ass off. You held Tech to 4 of 14 on 3rd down, just 312 yards, 3.1 yards per carry, even after having a tough start. Sometimes, though, if you play close games, you're going to fall short. And nothing but respect for the kind of grit and fight of this team. Just not quite enough all-around execution to win on Saturday. All right, we're going to continue on with our GOATs of the game. First, this episode of the show is brought to you by Gametime. Buying tickets to your favorite sporting event should not be stressful because you're going to go to either a game or a sporting event, music, comedy, theater near you, and it's going to be fun. So why shouldn't the ticket process be fun too? Well, with Gametime, they have flash deals, last-minute tickets, and it's easy to find every kind of seat. Wherever you're looking, you get the different images and pictures on the screen. You can also change to the view of the entire stadium. So you can be like, oh, in the 100 levels, or, in this section, I like sitting in the corner of the end zone. Wherever you want to go, you can see what the cheapest tickets are in that area. Get exclusive flash deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, and more. They offer last-minute tickets. Snag the tickets without the stress with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Goats of the game. Let's start with our good goats here. If you're new to this, greatest of all time, good, bad is the old scapegoat version of how the word was used. First good goat here, Devin Neal, 19 carries, 137 yards. He also had 2 catches for 2 yards, so 139 total yards, and that electrifying touchdown. That touchdown's really what, got the spark going, the momentum going. Kansas was, down at that point, and they needed something to go their way, and it finally happened on that little speed option play. Ballard pitched at the perfect time, and Neal just exploded through 60-yard rushing touchdown. Even if you take that away, though, that's 79 total yards the rest of the way for Devin Neal. So he was able to grind when he needed to, and then the 60-yard run in the end for him. He was awesome and continues to be for KU, and nearly brought KU back from the brinks on that one. OJ Burroughs gets a good goat. He had 3 tackles. He also had 2 pass deflections. He had an interception. He almost had 2 or 3 interceptions, to be honest, but one interception was a great play, diving, coming over from the safety position and stopping that ball toward the end zone. It was unfortunate that it was at the 1-yard line, but KU ended up, it didn't matter. They got all the way to the other one. Unfortunately, they couldn't finish the drive from there. But on Pro Football Focus, OJ Burroughs had a 90 coverage grade. He also had a 90 overall grade on PFF. So OJ Burroughs was really good in this one. Honestly, all the safeties pitched in really well. Kenny Logan had like a team high in tackles, played really well against the run for you. Coverage grades didn't love him in this one, but he was good. Marvin Grant gets a good goat here. 6 tackles, 1 TFL. He had a 76 coverage grade on Pro Football Focus. So again, all your safeties chipping in and contributing. That's been a really nice position for KU so far this season. The Austin Booker pass rush gets a good goat here. He had 5 pressures from the pass rush that led KU. He also had 1 of KU's 3 sacks for the game. He continues to just be a menace on the defensive line rushing the passer. The reason I singled out pass rush in this one wasn't his best tackling grade or run defense grade, though, on Pro Football Focus. So pass rush specifically for him was where the good goat action was. Rich Miller gets a good goat. 8 tackles, which was tied second on the team. He also had 1 of those other sacks for the game for KU. Now, when you look at the receiving numbers and the targets against, he was targeted 6 times in the passing game. He gave up 6 catches. So right away, you're like, oh, okay, well, that's not great. He only gave up 30 yards, though, on the 6 catches. So, I mean, if you're only giving up 5 yards per attempt, that's actually a good number. So kind of all around good day for Rich Miller in this one. This one might take some explaining, because I did see some social media comments about just this wasn't good enough, but I actually think this was a really good game for this kid. Cole Ballard is part of my good goats here. Stats not great. 9 of 20 for 124 yards, no touchdowns, 1 interception, 10 carries for 20 yards. Those do not sound like great numbers, and in fact, they're not. I'll say this, though. QBR, which measures, how a quarterback kind of impacts the game. So, like, QBR is going to give you, it's on a scale of 1 to 100 or 0 to 100, and it's going to measure you more. If you throw a 4-yard pass on 3rd and 3, that's going to give you more bonus points than if you throw a 4-yard pass on 3rd and 10, which makes sense, right? He had a 61 QBR, which is not great, but it's not terrible either. Like, for instance, Baron Morton, the Texas Tech quarterback, came in on the season with a 58 QBR on the year for Texas Tech. You got a 61 from Cole Ballard. If you would have said you were going to need him for that much, you would have taken that and hoped that the rest of the stuff figured itself out. And then when you add in the fact that he didn't really get as much help as he kind of needed him to from some of the receiving game. He threw the one kind of jump ball to Jared Casey, a ball that I think Jared Casey has such good hands. If you throw that ball again 10 times, Jared Casey might catch, 5 or 6 of them, and maybe 2 or 3 of them end up being complete. Maybe only one of the other ones ends up intercepted again. It was just a great play by the defensive back on a ball that was kind of a 50-50 ball. I don't necessarily fault Jared Casey. It was just a good play by the DB, but one that Jared Casey easily could have come up with in a lot of other circumstances. So that would have helped the stats. I can't remember if Mason Fairchild had a drop, or maybe not a drop, but one that was kind of contested. He got hit and it got kind of jarred out. I couldn't remember on that one. But the ones that really come to mind, Pro Football Focus credited Tanaka Scott with 3 drops for the game. I remember 2 succinctly that came at pretty big moments. There was one where it was well downfield and would have been a big gain for KU. So, I mean, if you're talking about if those 3 drops become catches from Tanaka Scott, and you're now 12 of 20 for like 170-ish yards, somewhere in that range. And KU, this is backed up by the lack of help here. KU came in 4th in the country on Pro Football Focus in receiving grade as a team. So they've been excellent there. They picked a bad game to have their worst receiving grade of the season, because that's what happened. By Pro Football Focus, 52.8 receiving grade, lowest of the year. So you combine having your worst game there with having your third string quarterback in. So, I mean, all things considered with the circumstances, true freshman, walk-on, third string quarterback, solid defense. Tech was top 5 in yards allowed per pass and yards allowed per run and yards allowed per play. Poor weather, right? That wasn't ideal weather. And by the way, Jason Bean was 1 for 4 for 13 yards before he went out. So it's not like he was killing Tech early either. Like, he played good enough to win in many ways. I thought he was super gritty. He was key for you in the big moments. The 3rd and 10 run was awesome. And he came up with some big drives late. Now, was it the best game in the world? No. Would you have been better off with Jason Bean? Yeah, probably. That's why he's ahead of him on the depth chart. But I thought Cole Ballard actually played pretty well. Armaj Reed-Adams gets a good goat here. He was the only Jayhawk who was top 3 on the team in pass block grade and run block grade. He had the awesome highlight where he lined up at slot tight end, wide tight end, whatever, and motioned over and just wrecked the guy on the end. That was a lot of fun. And then Dominic Pooney, he had the team best pass block grade, and Pro Football Focus gave him the overall best grade for any KU offensive player. As far as the bad goats here, the red zone offense gets a bad goat. 3 trips, 6 points. Tech was bottom 2 in the conference in red zone defense coming in. Again, if you just get 1 touchdown, whether it's the last trip that makes you go up 17-13 at that point, if it's the first one, that completely changes the game. So the red zone offense, and I get it, it's tougher with a third string quarterback because those are the tighter windows. And Tech just seemed to be knowing that the running the football was going to happen. So it definitely made it tough. 4th downs gets a bad goat here. I mean, you want to talk about a coin flip game, 3-point game? 4th downs could have determined it. Texas Tech, 2 for 2 on 4th downs. Kansas, 0 for 2 on 4th downs. If both teams go 1 for 2, does Kansas win the game? If Kansas goes 2 for 2 and Tech's 0 for 2, does Kansas win the game? Right? The 4th downs ended up being a big thing. And that was a story coming in that, Tech was 2nd in the conference in attempting 4th downs, and they were 2nd in the conference at 4th down percentage. And that showed out in this one. Game management gets a bad goat here. I mentioned that some of the not calling field or timeouts at the end of the first half. You certainly could have used an extra field goal there. Calling a timeout yourself on the goal to go. I didn't like, I mentioned some of the play calls like the 4th and 1. I just didn't love running out of the pistol there. The 3rd and goal kneel pass can be debated. I didn't bring this one up earlier, but I thought this was, I don't understand why they did this. Jason Bean goes down with the injury, what appeared to be like a knee injury. I know Lance Leipold said after the game a head injury. I don't know if that's just to try to be like, oh, well, if it's a head injury, maybe he could come back and maybe that makes him more viable to play against K-State just to get them to prepare for that. If it's not, I don't know. It seemed like it was like a knee injury and he was having trouble running. And he comes back in on a 4th and 2 when you have a guy having trouble running and you run like a QB sprint play to the left. That did not make sense to me. I don't know why you would do that. But anyway, overall, I thought it was fine. I don't know. I just thought that was kind of weird. Punting gets a bad goat here. 4 punts for KU. They only averaged 33 yards per punt. In their first 2 drives where they 3-and-outed, bad punts both times, and led to short fields. Tech took advantage, scored 10 early points, and you spotted them, and that ended up being the difference. And then the last one, I hate singling guys out individually, but I don't know. I'm sure if you asked Tanaka Scott, he'd say it was a bad game for him. He had a 33.7 PFF grade. He dropped, 3 passes, not his best work. And that was unfortunate because I think Tanaka Scott's a really talented and, high potential wide receiver, but just unfortunate on this day when you had to really rely on the guys with your third string quarterback that things fell a little bit short there. All right, we're going to continue on with early look at what's next with KU K-State for KU football. We spend a lot of time talking together. We get fired up on wins and losses, who starts, who sits. I'm thankful for the connection we have. And today we're going to be talking about Jace Medical. Whether you're on extended travel, bracing for a major weather event, or limited by a supply chain shortage, you're covered thanks to the partners at Jace Medical. Life-saving antibiotics and a long list of daily medications can be ordered in a 1-year supply, even ED generics for Cialis, Viagra, and Revatio prescriptions. Go online right now at jacemedical.com to receive your 12-month supply on your daily medication. Remember to use promo code LOCKEDON at checkout for a discount. And if you are someone that you wants to get some of that peace of mind by having a year supply of any daily med, just go to jacemedical.com. That's JASE medical.com to see if it's offered for you. Remember to use promo code LOCKEDON, LOCKEDON, for $20 off your purchase with Jace Medical. All right, finishing things up, what's next for KU football? It is Kansas State. That one on Saturday. They got the 6 o'clock game, so it'll be a night game. Crowd will certainly be into it for KU, and they're going to need them because K-State's rolling right now. They just blew out Baylor and nearly beat Texas the week before. Really good team. Some of the metric sites think this is like top 15, even higher team in the country right now. I mean, you look at the losses. Missouri's really good. Texas is really good, and both of those were coin flip losses that, if Missouri doesn't hit a school record field goal, if K-State doesn't muff a snap on a PAT, they might be, in the college football playoff contention right now. So a really good Kansas State team rolling right now. You might be on your third string quarterback. You're seeing early the line, I think, opened at 6.5. I've seen some places it's already up to like 8 points in this one. I don't know that I'm expecting Jalen Daniels to come back. Certainly it would have been great if that injury stuff was there. I don't know that I'm expecting Jason Bean to be there. So Cole Ballard has a chance to, be a folk hero in one way, but also when you look at next year, there's some QB uncertainty for KU next year. Jason Bean is going to be graduated. I mean, the Jalen Daniels situation remains kind of just, question marks right now with who knows, because we're just not, hearing a lot from the coaching staff on that. You bring in Isaiah Marshall next year, your 4-star recruit. If Cole Ballard wins a game like this and plays well, does it make it harder for Isaiah Marshall to usurp him on the depth chart, whether that would be for a backup to Jalen Daniels, which we've seen the backup get in a lot, or to be the starter if that's the open job. So this is going to be a big one. And certainly if Kansas wins this game, it's just going to feel like anything else you do the rest of the season would be the cherry on top. But hasn't gone well for KU in the series against K-State lately, to say the least. All right, that'll do it for this episode of Locked on Jayhawks. You can find us anywhere you get your podcast. We'll be back tomorrow for a Champions Classic KU Kentucky preview. See you next time with LOJ